brotherhood, without a doubt, is one of the most valuable assets you can have in your life. If you expect to grow your relationship, your business, your bank account, just yourself as an individual, you must have a group of men around you that see you, support you, not only encourage you, but also hold you accountable and challenge you where you're calling out, or they are calling out rather, your bullshit story that gets in the way of you being your best self. We all know we could be a little bit better, that we have a potential inside of us, and something stops us from really expressing that. And sometimes we just need a good kick in the ass from guys that really support us and see us. And that's really what brotherhood is there for. In fact, I even heard a study today from an anthropologist that men are generally going to have intimate conversations with their wives, whereas wives, or the women, are generally going to have intimate conversations with their girlfriends. And I think they're onto something here. I think they're onto knowing that you hold on to those juicy details for someone outside of your primary relationship, and things are going to grow just fine. And I think men need more of that. They need to be supported by one another, and this lone wolf mentality needs to be thrown out. In fact, I think if there was one thing that I want the Unbreakable Man to provide for the world as a whole, is that men need men. And we can come together and we can show up as the best version of ourselves. We can hold each other accountable. And in today's episode, we actually flip the script, and my podcast producer interviews me specifically on that topic. We actually talk about brotherhood. We talk about the need for it. We talk about why it's important. What are the aspects you're looking for in having a brotherhood, which I kind of already alluded to. And ultimately, when you have a brotherhood, you are going to be able to have the cohesive unit around you that support you, keep you accountable, so you can get the results you're looking for. Again, we are all living a drive to be a better version of ourselves. We all have that within us. It's really the men that you keep around you that will hold you accountable. As they say, you are the 5 people you hold yourself around. And if you are living your life in a certain way and you want to level up, find a group of people that are going to level you up. So in today's episode, again, we talk about the Unbreakable Man Brotherhood, the nuances, the, what's inside of it, and why it's so vital. And of course, before we get into the show, we really are self-sponsored in this deal. We're putting a lot of resources into this podcast, and it takes a lot of heart and soul to really bring this voice and bring this message across the land, to let men know that there are answers out there, that there are solutions, that you might feel stuck in life. You might feel that there's something that you want that's just out of reach, and maybe you don't have a place to go. And that's actually why we created the Unbreakable Man Brotherhood. And it is for the reason that men, we hold ourselves back, we lone wolf it, we try to figure it out ourselves. We got to stop doing that. If you really want to break through in life, if you want to be the man you want to be and get the results you want, you need other men around you. In this brotherhood, you get the coaching, you get the accountability, you get the discipline that you need in order to be the man you want to be and get the results. And in fact, the basic neuroscience of that is very straightforward. When we start to stimulate our mind, when we know where we're going and we check things off the box, we stimulate dopamine and oxytocin and endorphins, and we start to cultivate the mindset of trusting ourselves, knowing that we can be the man we want to be. We can create the confidence that we want because we're starting to get results. And so if those are the things that you want, then sign up for the Unbreakable Man Brotherhood. You can go to the link in the description below, click it, get in there. You can get an incredible amount out of this brotherhood. And I hope to see you in there. I know, as always, you're going to really enjoy this episode. But again, dive into the brotherhood. I'm really looking forward to meeting you, and I'll see you in the episode. Let's go. What is up, beautiful humans? This is Dr. Dave Cahotis. I am on a mission to forge strong, heart-centered, and purpose-driven men. And this podcast is here to help you stop managing your problems and start breaking free of stress, limiting beliefs, and excuses that stop you from executing at your fullest potential, living with passion, and being the man you want to be. So let's go. So today we're going to have a very special episode with my producer. I'm really pumped about this, you guys. Scott Doucet. And am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to jump on the horn with you for a number of reasons. I am going to have this amazing conversation with you today. I know you had a lot of questions about my program, and you were even thinking about hopping into it. We actually talked about you being in other men's work programs and what that was like, and like kind of the ins and outs of how it didn't work. And then you
Yeah.
mentioned this thing, and this was actually really cool. I really appreciated this, and I've gotten this from other people sharing with you, like sharing with me, like what you liked about it. And I was like, well, what is the thing that like really sticks out? And you simply said the word compassion. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of like,
Yeah.
it's sort of like a let's fucking go attitude along with like, hey, but I see you. Like I know what your pain is, and I've been
Yeah.
there and I've been in the dark and I know what that feels like. And so anyway, I wanted to just kind of share your story. Let's kind of just talk about you just for a minute and then see if actually being a part of this brotherhood might be right for you, man.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to because honestly, I produce your show. I hear you every single week talking to a man of caliber, a man of substance, or talking to yourself. And it's funny because like when I'm listening to your show, like especially the testimonial stuff for the experience, like I'm a curious person, right? If you
Mm.
mention something on the show, I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole. And I'm watching promotional videos, and you guys got like your abs have abs in the promotional video, and you're like drowning each other in really cold water and like you're coming out of this like
It's
more
like,
enlightened men, and I'm like, okay, so chiseled abs and
how
frozen
does
baths and I can be
how
like
does this
top tier.
work?
Right, yeah, there's got to be something going on that I'm not aware of, so I do have a ton of questions.
How do my abs get abs? It's like they've grown their own little head of abs
Because like
on top
I've
of
got
it.
the one set, but I want that second set.
I mean, I have to really lean forward into those pictures, man. It's like just put it out there. It's
But yeah, so I
I
do have a
love it,
lot of
man.
curiosity. I have a lot
Yeah,
of
man.
curiosity.
Yeah. So let's talk about you. Like, if
Yeah.
you had to think about what are some of the struggles that you're working with right now, what are the things that are stopping you from being the man you want to be? We'll kind of start there.
Well, I mean, to put things plainly, like I grew up with a very specific set of goals. You know, I wanted to own
Mm.
a Chrysler 300 because I thought they were the most badass
Yeah.
car on the planet.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I bought one in March of
With
2017.
how big were the rims? How many
Oh,
and you're
low
Canadian too.
profile
Yeah.
mags, like whole nines, man.
Yes,
I
dude.
yeah, so I bought the 300 and I made
Okay.
sure it was like chrome and wood interior and like the most beautiful car I
Wow.
could buy. Okay.
Dope.
So I bought the car. I wanted to have a house in my hometown. My wife and I bought the
Mm.
house. I had this girl in mind from like my early 20s that I knew
Mm.
like I wanted to marry. And every girl that I dated, I was always looking for her in them. And
Yeah.
she was never there because
Hmm.
she's a real
Hmm.
person. Well,
Yeah.
I married her.
Hmm.
You know, and I have three kids and I wanted kids and I wanted a boy and a girl, and now I have two boys and the girl's my eldest, right? So I have this
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
wanted to run my own business, wanted it to be an audio or radio. So I run a
Mm.
production business, right? So
Yeah.
I've always been like a set a goal, stomp it flat, set a goal, stomp it flat. And I'm finding now I've accomplished all of the goals I set out to accomplish.
Mm.
I have been left with the residuals of those decisions where I didn't realize that every single one of those goals was going to require me to be a very, very different person than the
Yes.
person who set those goals.
Yeah.
And so the person who holds on to the car and the house, oh yeah, we bought our house like outright, completely mortgage free. We own it.
Mm.
Like so like we really went at this like very strategically and very specifically. But
Yeah.
I spent so much time strategizing those goals that I forgot about the next season of life and what I
Yes.
want to do now. So now I'm finding myself a different person completely. I want different things out of my life. I'm finding I have growing pains of becoming a father of three instead of two. You know, the various behavioral and natural things we run into as we develop, one as
Mm.
men, two as
Yeah.
husbands, as fathers. You know, I'm finding myself like mourning parts of my life that I didn't think were going to die so young. But
Hmm.
also, I find in myself at the same time, like really grateful for the maturity and really into the man I'm becoming. Like I'm becoming a classic overnight. It's kind of interesting. I feel myself growing into the old man I'm going to be, and it's
Uh,
amazing.
it's like you've become Ernest Hemingway.
Just
Like
overnight, right?
just overnight you grew the beard, and now it's you're speaking in poems and
Yeah, but
It's beautiful.
I bought myself a pipe. I have a tobacco pipe, like an
Epic.
old-fashioned tobacco pipe. I'm ready
Absolutely.
to get my sea captain's hat like I'm doing it,
Yes.
right? But now I'm finding myself like I manage a team now that takes
Mm,
interpersonal skills
mm.
that I have struggled with my whole life because I'm not necessarily wired to be social. I want the best for
Yeah.
people. I intend well, but I'm not the most responsive, or
Yeah.
I'm finding myself with very limited contacts and connection.
Mm,
The men that I know are hard ass military vets who
yeah.
there's a disconnect when they move into civilian problems. They're
Hmm.
like, okay, you think that's hell? Well, try going to Kandahar or try going to, like
Yeah.
they don't necessarily see the struggle of the mundane civvy life. But then all of my civilian friends are not honestly not hard enough.
Yeah. A little soft.
They're a little
Little too soft.
I see what my veteran, patrons see when they look at me. They're like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you're not quite there, right?
Yeah.
So like I guess I'm finding myself in this weird place of transition where I know there's a next mission. I
Yeah.
know there's a team to support me in that mission, but I've grown the friends I have are either gone or employees.
Okay.
And I don't have that next level of focus, that next level of whatever it is. So I'm kind of finding myself wandering lost. And it's not that I'm not growing. It's just that I think I took time to heal. I think I took time to learn, but I'm finding myself getting hungry for that next charge into wherever the hell I'm going. And I want to know where that is before I go.
Yeah. So paint me a picture. What is that? I mean, if you had to think about like what is missing, the hands are in the air, the hands go up and it says, I don't know. Okay. No, that's legit, man. Like I
Yeah.
think that's and I can honor that because I will ask most guys when they come through the program, like, what do you want? And they tell me what they don't want.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, you told me what you don't want the chaos, you don't want the mother-in-law that nags you, you don't want, the kids that are always going crazy. What is it? And here's the thing, we don't always know exactly what we want. And I was there and I was in that moment where I was like, I know I don't want this, but I don't know what it is I want.
Yeah.
And here's one of the most interesting elements about going in the direction that you want to go. Oftentimes, we don't choose simply because we're afraid that that choice will lead us into more suffering. We are
Yeah.
afraid that that choice will get us into a bind. There's going to be a cost with that thing. Maybe we go after that next level business. Maybe that the next step in our evolution. Maybe we want to be a better father or a better husband, and we know that there's going to be a cost. And of course, there's always a cost, no matter what. Like you mentioned, you come this far in your journey, and there was a cost. Maybe it cost you some time with your friends, and maybe it cost you some time with your significant other, and so there is like you've built this paradise in a way, but then that paradise becomes its own cage.
Prison.
Yeah, its own prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was literally just before you came on, I literally just did a video about this. And what happens when we go out into the world and we want to create something? We create, and I'll show you on the picture, but I'm going to walk you through this because for people that are just listening, you have sort of like these chaotic thoughts, and they're kind of everywhere. They're sort of nebulous thoughts, feelings, and actions. And what we need is a sense of purpose. And purpose is that specific thing. The more specific you can be, the more you can create a knowing, a container for your thoughts, feelings, and actions. You can focus. You're mentioning focus. You're like, I can focus on like, like the bottom line must be this, and I need this many clients, and I need that, like as a father, I need to do these things and whatnot. What happens is that that purpose that you once had then becomes its own identity, and it starts to fill itself in, almost like I'm going to give an example from a female endocrine system, the uterus that needs to slough off all the cells, right? It starts to build and build and build, and it becomes this pressure that we now have to produce in order to try to just maintain what we've created. But all along, our higher self, our soul, whatever word works for you, is calling us to a new potential. And for us to actually go there, we're going to have to step through the element of fear. We actually allow ourselves to die off. We have to step through this cage of belief, of identity, that you are a father, that you are a husband, that you are a producer, that you are in radio, that you are a businessman, right? So all of these
Yeah.
identities have to be seen for what they are, not what you think they are, and let go of everything in order for you to completely surrender and then say, oh, well, what I actually wanted was freedom. What I actually wanted was clarity. What I actually wanted was abundance. And you allow yourself then to create the new identity. Now, the hard part is doing that alone. I always say that. The hard part is going into the world of saying like, okay, well, I want to create this. And yeah, like there's the nuance of discipline and accountability and all these things. But there's really a moment where there's like this humanness where there has to be a level of empathy. And like you were talking about, your civilian friends are a little too soft. Sometimes they are, like sometimes they need more discipline.
For some things, for some,
Yeah.
not everything. Like if I'm going through a heartbreak, I'm not going to get drunk with my veteran friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because
Not
they
at
don't,
all. They'll kill me.
yeah, absolutely. They don't understand. They don't understand empathy, and then sometimes, like your feelings can be validated almost too much, and then you don't get shit done, and then you're like, I'm still wallowing in my suffering.
You just kind of stay a victim for a while.
Exactly, because I'm not actually getting shit done. And what would make me happier and more confident is actually if I put things on paper and I knock them off the list, which is true neuroscience, by the way. If you literally just have a list of things to do in the day and you check them off the list, you stimulate dopamine internally versus getting it externally from some type of social media or alcohol or drug or porn or sport or whatever it might be. So it's a little side note.
Nice.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think you're absolutely, in the perfect spot. Let me ask you this, man, like what's stopping you from moving forward? Obviously there's sort of this unknown, if you had to think about, what's stopping you from moving forward.
It's weird. And I'm not I've done a lot of work in the self-awareness thing, and I've done a lot of identity work. Like I've very well stripped of most of my identity, and just I'm a being, I'm a person, and I'm here to experience life, and I want to make people's lives better by having met me than destroy them. And that's kind of always been the mission. But like you asked me one day, and because we've had a lot of really cool talks and sales talks, and I've had a lot of opportunity to pick your brain about what you do. And you asked me one day, like, is it the accountability I need, or is it the what was the other one? But you asked me two questions. One was accountability, and one was
the empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really neither. And you said like, what is it you really want? Is it clarity? Is it? I think I got married, had the family for a sense of belonging.
Belonging.
I grew up kind of like sat in front of video games so that my parents could do certain things and live certain ways and have fun. And on the weekends, I was very much inundated with video games. When we went camping, I was very much inundated. So I was always like, I always felt like I was tagging along with my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as I got older and I started looking for relationships with, romantic relationships, it was always the person who made me feel like I was theirs, and I had a place with them. They were the one who kind of won my heart. And now I have a place where I belong more than anywhere on earth.
Yeah.
Right. And I should be absolutely thrilled about that, but I'm still finding myself lacking that very specific, fulfilling sense of belonging. And so for me, I think belonging has always been that. It's why I started a business where I'm the boss. I belong there. It's why I got the car, because I belong behind the wheel of that car.
Absolutely.
I belong in that house in my hometown. This community took me in when very many communities did me dirty, right? So like anywhere I've felt a sense of belonging, I typically cling to and stay. And you mentioned that I was with other men's groups before, and I did have some time where earlier on a couple years ago I was struggling with the idea of up leveling as a man.
Yes.
Letting go of a lot of those teenage behaviors, those boyish behaviors, looking at them for what they really are, acts of rebellion and cries for help, all that. And I was in a very tender place, and I joined a man's group where tenderness was not really the objective.
We won't name names.
So I'm hurting, and I'm abusing drugs, and I'm doing all these things, and these guys are like law enforcement officers telling me to go get it, and I'm like,
wake up at 5:30, 4:30, 3:30 earlier.
And I'm like, if I wanted to do that, I would have joined the service. The employer branding is wrong. Like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
So I found myself very quickly like almost overwhelmed. There was book clubs, there was meetings, there was calls, there was assignments, there was tracking, there was a lot going on. And like I said, business, married, homeowner, father of three.
Yeah.
You are all of these things, Dave. You know
Yeah.
that this is insane.
Yeah.
It's a lot to schedule in.
Yeah.
And that's not making excuses, which I was often made to feel like I was. Like,
Yes.
you don't pull off what we've pulled off if you're a man who makes excuses.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started getting treated like I was just making excuses, I very quickly realized I don't actually belong here.
Yeah.
So I started one of my own when I had 7 guys and we just went through basic stuff. What are we doing this week? What are we getting after this week?
Yeah.
We did fitness challenges. We did some cooking chat. We had a cook off one week where every guy took their best recipe and they made it for their family. We shared
Yes.
all the reviews, and it was really funny. And so like we did stuff like that just to kind of enrich our lives a bit because everything was feeling kind of empty.
Yeah.
But I realized that I don't want to be the man facilitating all of that on top of
Mm.
everything, right? Like I
Yeah.
100% want to take charge of my own growth, but I am not the man who's going to put a bunch of other guys on my shoulders and bring them with
Mm.
me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm already doing that in multiple places. I don't want to be doing that in my personal development time
Yeah,
too.
man. Yeah. Insert
So,
insert Dave.
I mean, that's one way to put it.
Yeah, man. I got
But
you. Get on my
so
back. Let's go.
so that's one thing where I really quickly realized that there's an in between. There's a program somewhere that's facilitated by someone else who understands my lifestyle and understands how hectic it can be,
Yeah.
but also understands my lifestyle enough to know the nuances of what I can hide behind, what I might try to avoid, what I, you know what I mean, like where I need to take responsibility and ownership, because ultimately we're all looking for that person who's a little more experienced than us,
Yes.
but
Yes.
more so we're looking for that person who has the result we want. And you look hella at peace, brother.
Yeah. I'm chill, man. I'm in my knowing.
peace
I'm in
peace is what I need. My wife wants to take a big trip to Toronto for my daughter's birthday, and I was like, yeah,
yeah.
let's do it. And she was like, let's stay there for your birthday. And I was like, no, I'm going fishing.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm coming home and I'm going fishing for my birthday because all I want is peace at this point in my
Yeah.
life. I want
Yeah.
peace. So
Yeah.
peace and belonging.
Okay. Well, then you just identified what you want. So you
Yeah.
know what you want, right? Like, so sometimes it just requires like a conversation. And I think what you just described is incredibly common amongst men. It's that feeling of not belonging. How often is it that men don't feel that they can go and be a part of a group of other men or share what is on their heart? In fact, I was having a conversation with the most, we'll call it right wing, individuals, Central Texas deer hunting camp over the weekend. And
I love it. I love it.
it was incredible. And one of the guys came up to me because he's known me for many years. And he's like, Dave, what you are doing is really special. And I'm like, yeah, man, thank you so much. Like, he's been noting what I've been doing. And he shared openly and vulnerably what he had gone through. And he had some health issues relative to his lower quadrant. He had some bladder issues and some bowel issues relative to an overactive stress stimulus that was sort of turned on, and he was in a trauma response essentially. And so like he was literally unable to go to the bathroom. It was like this, how the somatic, right? So we've heard of the term psychosomatic,
Yeah.
which is, Latin for body. It was literally causing him so much heartache and physical pain that he was considering killing himself. And he went through a program that was teaching him some, deep inner work, and he never considered this before. And he's a very, Fox News kind of guy. We'll just start there, like
Sure.
I listen, I don't want to be a soy boy, as what they say, right? I don't want to be like this, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is, So, but what's interesting about that was he started to share, and by him sharing and me holding space, which holding space is just another term for being an empathetic witness, just understanding where he's coming from, because I've been there.
Thank
The
you
other
for finally putting that in man's terms for me. I have been hearing the terms holding space for like almost a decade now in podcasts. And up until today, not a single person has articulated it to me in a way I understood.
That's beautiful, man. Just
Empathetic witness.
just being an empathetic witness, man. Just like, letting others share, and then understanding what they're experiencing. Because in that you create literally the area, the container for healing. Because and we'll talk about belonging, and that's really what this is you didn't feel that you got a sense of belonging in that other group, in that other men's group, because those men could not see you. They were not empathetic witnesses to your authentic expression. And in that moment, your authentic expression was, guys, I feel fucking terrible. I got kids on kids. I got business. I got bills. You throw everything on the back. And in that moment, your authentic expression is, I need fucking help. Who do I look to? And by them throwing the work harder at you, you didn't receive an openness of, okay, I can be who I want to be, or I can be just who I am. You got judgment. And so in the judgment, there is a constriction. And then there is this going back into the identity of, well, maybe I am broken. Maybe I am this thing. And then it creates more suffering and more suffering. Now healing happens. And this is why our group is completely different, dude. It's like night and day different, because we hold space. And by holding space, that's what literally we are an empathetic witness, that however you are showing up, you're showing up in that moment. And I've had guys that have come to our program and they're like having complete freak out moments. And I'm like, yeah, man. I feel that. Yeah. Like this is what you're experiencing. Like, and all you have to do is just allow them to experience it and understand that that's just the experience, and know that it's okay to feel chaos. It's okay to feel anxiety. It's okay to feel depressed, that you're not wrong for feeling these feelings. And I think we label in society that those feelings are detrimental, that they're bad, that I must be more productive. If I'm not productive, I'm not valuable or worthy, and I will not, win the day with the lady. And, so we really label these sensations, and then we get caught into the survival mechanisms of these old patterns and these mindset patterns that, that's where the identity comes in, right? I was mentioning that kind of the identity kind of feels constricting, because we're really identifying with old psychological patterns from when we were a child, that we must act this way in order to get our needs met. And when we're not getting that evidence in real life, we're like, what? Like, it's almost like this cognitive dissonance, which is, again, another term for, like, you expect one thing, you're not getting another thing. And then there's like sort of this lack, right? This link up, there's like something's missing. And so the belonging piece in our brotherhood, and we were kind of talking about this before, is just knowing that you can be who you are, and be who you are in the moment, so that you can be who you want to be. Because the second you accept this now moment of suffering, that is the opportunity for healing. And you can't heal what you're experiencing from the suffering, because, like, life is going to throw us fucking lemons, man. Like, I'm going through it. You've gone through it. Like, we've all
see
been
that on
in
my
it.
face, eh?
Yeah, man. Like, it's going to throw us some shit. It's going to throw us some curveballs sometimes. And it's how we show up to that makes the quality of our life, right? And I'll give you an example, and I've shared this with you, but, we had a mold outbreak, and we just, got some quotes to totally demolish the house, what that's going to cost us. And obviously we have to rebuild it the second we demolish it, because there's toxic mold in our house, and we have to get rid of literally everything in our house. So think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars of shit that I've collected over the course of years, right?
And the sentimental value of some of it too.
And so, there are cleaning protocols. And so there are a couple things, souvenirs that I can keep. But at the end of the day, man, like, we are about to shed. It's going to be a great shedding process. And I'm going to allow the emotions to move through me as I'm doing it. If I need to grieve and stop and cry, like, I'm going to go do it. Like, I'm just going to go fuck it. Just like, all right, listen, I need some space. I need some space, because I'm grieving this energy. And that's literally what it is. And, especially for men, I want to touch on this. Like, an emotion is literally a sensation, a biologic sensation inside of the body. That's all an emotion is. And we know that, like, when testosterone is high, we feel a certain way. When cortisol is high, we feel a certain way. When oxytocin is high, we feel a certain way. And so the sensations that you are experiencing, we call them emotions, are literally just neuro and biochemicals moving through the body. And we're experiencing that. And in the experience, we oftentimes label, oh, that's bad, and I don't want to feel depressed because it doesn't make me productive. So I must be productive for me to be valuable, which is also not true. So it's like, here's the thing though, it's like most people don't want to be depressed. They know they don't want to experience that. So it's like, okay, well, what's stopping you? And generally in those moments, we break them through. There's a whole nother protocol, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but the key is that the belonging piece that you're looking for in this brotherhood is there because the judgment, that piece of judgment, is replaced with compassion. And
Yeah.
that's what you described early on. Compassion will always, it's like sort of rock, paper, scissors, you know, it's like the paper over the rock. It
Yeah.
will always, you know, like disintegrate the judgment because that gives you the open space and you
Well,
can
and
hit.
that's one of the things that I was kind of touching on as well is, and I'm glad you did mention that, is because like when we, and I think a lot of men are in this boat. I look around and I see a lot of it. There's a lot of really good guys out there. Don't get me wrong. They lived wholesome lives their whole lives and they stepped in the right direction every step. But then there are some of us who, in order to deal with what we went through as kids, we locked our inner child in a box and we invited a big old beast forward to protect him in the form of
Yeah.
hostility and being
Mm-hmm.
closed off
Yeah.
and being, and so you become very hard very young, which was my case. And I went through life as that hostile protector of myself.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is the steps that I took as that angry teenager, that guy in his young 20s, and then I became the guy who, I held good jobs, but I always struggled to make ends meet. So I became
Yeah.
the guy who did things to get the bills paid, and as you start moving through life and maturing and you get to a point where you're no longer that person, like I
Yeah.
said, I did the identity work. The hostility is for the most part gone. Those things I did, I can forgive myself for. That's
Yeah.
fine. I'm all
Yeah.
right with, I'm all right with my maker now as far as that goes. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about it. However, I'm not all right with everyone else around me because now I have all this shame linked to the person I have been and things
Mm.
that I have done.
Yeah.
And now I feel like if I'm going to open myself up in the wrong company, I'm going to basically make myself vulnerable, expose myself, and make myself feel less than or
Mm-hmm.
like I am the monster I felt like I was at the time.
Yeah.
And those having those feelings validated, I think would be it wouldn't kill me, it wouldn't hurt me, but at the same time, wouldn't it be nice to be able to enter into a space of the man I am now,
Mm-hmm.
reflective of those things, and have the man I am now taken at face value instead,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And to dive deep into the shame, and that's actually our in-person event, right? So we in the online brotherhood that we do, like the 90-day coaching program and the brotherhood,
Nice.
we work through the elements of understanding the fundamentals of mindset mastery is what I call it. So understanding how your mind body are connected, having a depth practice, understanding like, okay, this is how I need to sit with this when I'm
Yeah.
experiencing the chaos of life, instead of letting it's sort of like, think of it like waves, like when you're in surfing, like when you're out
Yeah.
there on the ocean, like waves are going to come and they're going to crash over the top of you, and you can flounder in the surf and just get destroyed and thrown around and thrash, and it feels like super overwhelming. Or you can understand, okay, I'm going to go underneath this wave, right? This wave might be shame, this wave might be
Yeah.
guilt, this wave might be, okay, I have a bill due and I don't know how to make it happen, so you're experiencing some financial shame, whatever. So you go
Yeah.
underneath it, you understand it, and then on the other side, when the wave comes again, you can hop on your surfboard because you can read it and you can ride that motherfucker, and you get to
Yeah.
have so much fun because you're like, oh, I know what this feeling is. I know exactly what this is. And we don't realize this, but well, generally, so your thoughts, feelings, and actions are the only thing you're in control of. That's really it. And at the end of the day, even your actions are mostly subconscious because we are created this servo mechanism, almost like a subconscious patterning from old processes. And
Yeah.
so the way we articulate that and the way we know, okay, well, what action am I generally going to take? It's out of a sense of emotion. You're going to know if you can change your state of emotion through movement, then boom, you're in control, you're in command, and you can do that proactively every single day. That's what we do in our brotherhood. So
Beautiful. So out of curiosity, like to give you a few kind of situations, like one is that there's two things I noticed when I was listening to your show. I was listening to Nico and Nick, the two testimonials from the
yeah, the
experience.
guys that
Okay.
came through our program.
Both of those guys said that they were able to come in and be put in frustrating situations and just deal with them in a way that was completely not like them before they would get frustrated, aggressive, caught up in the moment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and
Yep.
they would behave a certain way. And
Yeah.
both of these guys were just able to look at these things and go, "Pff,"
Yeah.
Not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
address it, in my opinion, I would say properly. But
Yes.
you know what that's, again, that's labeling a judgment the other way, but they were
Yeah.
able to deal with it in a way that yielded results closer to what they wanted. You
Y-
know, empowering people, making them feel good in the moment instead of making them feel less than for what they're going through.
Absolutely.
So that was
Yeah.
one of the standalone things that I personally could benefit from, because you know,
Mm.
I have a wife who flies off the deep end over what I would consider silly things,
Yeah.
but they're really important things to her.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have kids who, if one of them socks the other in the face, well, that's a situation that I've got to navigate very, very delicately, because
Yep.
I've got two little fragile minds, you know, behave, and one of them is conducting themselves in a way that I disapprove of.
Yeah.
And however I decide to navigate that is going to set a precedent, right? So like all of these new interrelationship things that I've never had to deal with before are
Yeah.
requiring a very cool, collected, well articulated, well thought out man,
Yeah.
not a reactive guy.
Yeah, and you hit the
Right.
nail on the head, and the reason that the Unbreakable Man is so different from other programs, like because I've read all the books, dude. Like I've read all the books. I went to counseling. I went to seminars. I, hired other coaches, right? But like nothing was as transformative for me than going through my own processes when I realized that you have to literally go into the experience of that. You have to go through and experientially go through that process of, okay, like when you come to my event, I'm going to challenge you.
I
Like
know.
by just like, but then like, fuck, yeah, oh God, oh God. But like, that's just it. Like the way to break through is to be challenged, is to be triggered. And in that moment, boom, now with a empathetic witness, with a healthy facilitator in a safe environment, you can actually break through. Now, here's the thing is I know it's safe, right? Like, and I'm going to put you on the edge of safety, right? I'm going to put you
Oh
in
yeah.
cold ass water. I'm just going to tell you that
Yeah.
right now. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
put you in cold ass water. You're going to be like, I don't want to get, it's like, get in, right? You're like, ah, I love that's like ice is the
Yeah.
greatest teacher, man. It's just so dope. And now here's the thing when you're there and you're open and you're receptive to take all of those old identities. We talked about the word identity because identity creates this sort of this cage in which you must live in order to get your needs met, but in reality that's actually not supporting you. And so you mentioned the word shame. Well, shame is released when you stop thinking, right? When you have that mindset, not that I did bad, but that I am bad. That's when we link up
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah.
When you link up I am bad, and that badness could be anything. It could be like, well, I'm bad because I'm not a good provider, or I didn't provide something for my wife, or I'm bad because I'm yelled at my kids, and like I'm a shitty father, I'm just like my dad, or you name it, man. It's like we, instead of linking up like, oh, I did wrong, you link up I am wrong, and you identify with the wrongness. But you mentioned like the real depth of shame is, yeah, like that monster that lives within. It's, we need to go find that guy. We need to go
Yeah.
find him, and we need to pull him out, and we need to have a conversation with him, and we need to throw some love at that guy because he's part of you. I'm serious, man.
Absolutely.
He's like, he's part
Absolutely.
of you, and so leading you up, of course, in the brotherhood, right? It's like there's this virtual container where it's like, all right, we're gonna do a lot of the fundamentals. You're gonna get a lot of success out of it too, because it's
Yeah.
like there is accountability, right? You, like, as a man, like when we live in integrity with our soul, with the thing that we want, we actually feel trust in ourselves. We feel confident. We link up these good feelings, and we're like, oh, that's serotonin, that's dopamine, that's oxytocin. We start to trust ourselves. We start
Yeah.
to experience more balance. And so a lot of guys ask, oh, how long is it going to take in your program, and like how much time do I need to invest? And it's like, well, you're just going to order your life. That's all it is. It's not necessarily you're going to do a lot. You're just going to start ordering things in a certain order so that you can get the results you're looking for, maybe in your health, in your relationship. If you can invest 10 minutes a day with your wife, just one-on-one, just doing certain practices, then yeah, man, you're going to have an incredible marriage, and you're going to feel trust, because all you're doing is you're just linking up connection and balance in these things. And so yes, going back, when you have a stimulus, there is this moment between stimulus and response. And Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, put this so eloquently. In that space, that is your opportunity to choose your own way. What are you going to think? What are you going to feel? And how are you going to act? It is simply moving from reactive, which is what you described, where you are reenacting an old pattern of survival. Maybe your kid slams a dish and you go, hey, right? Or are you going to see that in that moment as an empathetic witness and respond as a new individual? And the difference is going to change your life. If you can go from reaction to response and have response ability, which is, I'm going to say that one more time, response ability, right? The ability to respond. That's what responsibility is. If you can have that, which is ownership over yourself, your life will change. And I teach guys that, and you mentioned with Nico and Nick, they were able to have responsibility because they were in these reactive moments. And I brought out the triggers. I simply just stimulated those triggers within them while they were going through the evolutions. And then they were able to flip the script because it's crazy to watch on the outside because I know what I'm doing, but they don't recognize it until it's over. And they're like, holy shit. Oh my God. Like, it's like that energy is gone. Like the thorn in the side is pulled out, and that wound can now heal. And that's
once the pain and sensitivity is gone surrounding that trigger, it doesn't trigger you anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. You basically, and let me clarify here. Like, I'm not just coming to you because I think you're going to professionally pour salt on my wounds until it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
That's not it.
There's some programs out there that'll do that. Yeah, man.
And guaranteed you're gonna make sure that there's enough there to sterilize. You're gonna put me through it. You're gonna make sure that it's okay, that I'm gonna come out the other side of it. But the one thing that I did notice that is drawing me to the brotherhood is everyone talks about downward spirals.
Mm-hmm.
I got into a fight with my wife. It did this, it did that. I got drunk. I did this. And it just continues. And then all of a sudden the story ends and the guys are like, I'm divorced. I no longer have my children. I'm in this state and I don't know where to live anymore. Like I'm completely like everything I thought I wanted is gone. Life is over. And that would be considered the story of the downward spiral. It always ends kind of the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does. Yeah.
But one thing I noticed about the guys who are coming into your program is I don't even know if they're aware of this. I know you are. They start experiencing an upward spiral.
Yes.
But the issue with the upward spiral I have found, because I've started many, is that without the proper support system. So like when I started a business because I didn't want to work for the man anymore, which by the way, turns out I'm the man I work for and I work like double time than I used to.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is the only job that we'll literally quit 40 hours a week to work 80 hours a week. And it's
and keep a quarter of it for ourselves and pay
keep
our
a
team
quarter
the
of it.
rest.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like I will defend my freedom until I am broke. And then you're like, oh shit, I should go back working for the man.
Right.
Like,
I'm gonna defend my freedom and be broke.
Yeah, right.
Because just because it's revenue doesn't mean it's profit, guys. I'm gonna put that out there.
You gotta learn that.
But so one of the things I've noticed though, when I started my business, the support system I had around me, none of them were business owners. So they were like, it's going to fail. It's going to flop. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. It's going to suck. And pure spite and prove you wrong got me through that. Like my hostility worked for me there. I was like, I'm going to show all of you. Right. So I did it and it was good. Hate and spite is no longer my motivator there because I have a purpose. I have mouths to feed there. Right.
Yeah.
My business has grown in such a way since changing that energy from hate and spite to like I have mouths to feed and people to provide for. This business has to work and we're going to do it. Like that's it's a more organic, growth oriented place. So of course things are going to grow there, right?
Absolutely.
But what I've noticed is when I quit drinking, I quit drinking 2 years ago. Everyone in my family group and friend group, like pretty much all of North America drinks quite heavily. It's wine after work.
A drug of choice.
Yeah. It's weekends. It's and don't get me wrong, I still imbibe like occasionally I'll have a beer every 6 months with a meal or something. Like I'm not. I don't think putting the hard stop for me would have been a healthy approach either.
Yeah.
Because I'm still a slave to it in my mind at that point. I'm just slave to avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did that, there was no support. Right. Yeah. So my upward spiral has always been limited to what I can do by myself.
Yes.
And I've noticed that your group, there's someone celebrating every step of the upward spiral with these guys. You guys are cheerleading each other. You're patting each other on the backs. You're giving each other resources. A guy runs into a snag. Another guy is like, hey, I just read a book on this, And there's
Mhm.
not a whole lot of pressure for me to like show up and read 10 books and make sure I'm doing the work and put in an
Yeah.
assignment and yada yada. There's literally a guy going, I already read that. Let me
Yeah.
talk you through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for myself, conversationally speaking, I have learned more about men's work listening to 13 episodes of your podcast thus far than I have learned in all of my time in men's work programs. And so for me, that has been kind of the motivator to reach out to you and ask because, like, I see the belonging, I see the accountability, I
Hmm.
see your roots are, they're not hard charging and aggressive. They're very calm, they're very growth oriented, they're very organic. You
Yeah.
know, you're more of a farmer than you are the warrior, but at the same time, like you can do both and you need to do both. And I like that about you, right?
Yeah.
Like you
It's
can put,
it. There's an old proverb. It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war. And
that's it, right?
that's the way I sort of approach life, and I love, and thank you, by the way, for noticing that. And I will say, like, I'm going to call you out on your shit. Like, there
Yeah,
is going to be moments where guys, like, for instance, one of the guys in the accountability group, I'm going to make you cut porn. I'm just going to tell you that, like, cut it, fucking cut it. And here's why,
yeah,
because it's a dopamine hit that we just know that it's not going to serve us. We
yeah.
just
No,
know it's going to stop you from seeing something deeper inside yourself that's going to maybe have a deeper connection with your wife. Maybe there's these conversations you're avoiding with your wife because, or even a girlfriend or whoever that person is, because you're like, oh, I have this easy outlet over here. I'm just going to go get that. And that's just going to
yeah,
stop you from your evolution. And so, yeah, I'm going to call you. I'm going to shoot you straight sometimes. And one of the guys, I was watching him, and here's the thing, he was telling the truth. And I honored that. I said, thank you for telling the truth. Quit the porn. Just fucking cut it. And
right,
because some of the
right.
other guys were like kind of laughing. They're like, because actually, like, I didn't even say, like,
Sometimes that's the answer though.
yeah,
Wake up
absolutely.
earlier. Like,
Absolutely. Right.
whatever it
I
is, there
just
is
said,
always a simple answer.
I was just following his protocols because I
Yeah,
make the guys show up every day with what I call their daily dial. It's their metrics. Where we have like KPIs for life,
yeah,
because you
yeah,
have accounts that you need to fulfill. Right. Fulfillment is you. It's just your life. Like, are you working out? Are you doing these? And he was showing up and he was putting a little, poo emoji next to that one. And I could see, like, okay, he's not hitting his marks. He's not fulfilling what he is intending. And I just literally wrote, cut the porn, period. Just, that's it. That's all it
yeah,
said. And they
yeah.
laughed. And it was like, yeah, you needed to do it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like it's difficult because it's habitual. But if you've got guys out there going like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna take you hunting instead," or "We're let's go like play some basketball," or
Yeah.
let's jump on a call. You wanna go, watch porn, and you're feeling that moment. You're feeling like
Yeah.
you're giving up in that moment to something stronger than you. Jump on a call. I'm
Yeah.
way less attractive than a porn star. You're not gonna be in the
Yeah.
mood anymore. Like
Don't shoot yourself short. Come on,
you're
man.
not going to be in the mood anymore after talking to me. Let's get on the phone so that you're not in an argument
Is
with
it the
your wife
Canadian
later.
accent?
So that you're not in an argument with your wife later. Jump
That's
on the phone,
awesome.
right? But like, and it's those things. So like, I see you guys celebrating wins. I see you
Yeah.
guys doing all that. The
Yeah.
biggest thing for me is I find the online container works well for my life. Like I said,
Yeah.
one of my sons is very, very high needs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to make every Tuesday at 10.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm going to need the flexibility there. And again, when you've got a group as compassionate as yours, I don't feel like your rigidity would cause problems in my life. I feel like if anything, you guys are going to have the ebb and flow I require so that when I hit the next meeting, you're going to be like, shit, it's nice to have you here,
Yeah.
celebrated,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of why weren't you at the last one? And I'm like,
Where
well,
were you?
let's explain my entire life to you, shall we?
Yeah.
Like, like, and again, like, it seems like you guys remove a lot of those barricades and barriers that often create, like, again, that self-shame cycle, the
Yeah.
self-resentment and loathing, the what's wrong with my life, the why can't I do this when 200 other guys can? Like,
Yeah.
there seems like, from what I've seen in your space, there's none of that.
Right. It's correct. Yeah, man. And you mentioned something too about you mentioned the word balance, and you were talking about, feeling like sort of out of sorts sometimes. You got the kids and your wife and the business, and
Yeah.
you got yourself, like, just taking care of you. And here's the thing, it's like, we know when the bank account is going up and down. Like, we can see it, it's objective. We know exactly, like, okay, ins and outs, like, especially when you're running your numbers in your business, what you need to be able to do is actually track your life like a business, almost like it's an account. Like we know when we're not showing up for our kids. Like we know it. Like internally we can feel it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, what you don't track, you can't manage. So you actually have to track it. Now, when I bring guys through, if you have kids, one of the things is like, well, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your kids? Like, well, I want to have a meaningful relationship and I want to teach them things. And most people like are going to say that, like they want to feel connected to the kids. They don't want to be a stranger. And yeah, they also want to take care of themselves. But I was like, all right, well, how about 15 minutes a day with your child, like one-on-one? Because actually there is evidence, studies that show if you have one-on-one time, 15 minutes a day with each kid, you know, that adds up to, let's say you got 3, that's 45 minutes. And if you got 4, that's 60 minutes. It's like, okay, you need a little bit of time, right? You know, but that's your workout. That's your, but like 15 minutes, man, like I'll set the timer and I'll be like, all right, guys, everybody else goes away. I'm going to stay with Max, right? Max is our middle child. And I'm going to do whatever he wants to do. That's the key. It's like, you want to wrestle, we can wrestle. You want to go bike ride, we can bike ride. You want to play video games, let's play video games together. And I'm there and I'm engaged and I'm like playing with them and I'm like, you know, laughing with them. And why I bring this up is there's this element of balance, because we oftentimes as men, we feel so out of sorts that we aren't taking care of ourselves. We're not taking care of the other areas of our life, our health, our relationship.
Yep.
We're so one-dimensionally focused on our business that we fall short in all the other accounts. And then you get to the end of the day and this sort of this idea of be successful so then you can have the time off is actually backwards. What if you can actually balance yourself so that you can feel ease and joy and peace and clarity and focus in the now moment, knowing that, oh yeah, like I already got my workout in, I got this. And you've actually programmed your mind and body using the power of habit to just like get up and go do your thing. And like you're light years ahead of other people just with before you had breakfast. Like, you know, it's incredible. And then you get to enjoy the day and you're like, I get to go have fun today and speak with other people and enjoy podcasting or whatever that thing is for you. And and so that's a big component to this. You know, it's like helping guys find balance.
I like it. And to be fair, like with my kids, I find I put the time in with my kids. Like we do one-on-one time. I usually try to aim for, well, it's built into our routine that I get them at least each a half an hour to 45 minutes to an hour a day. You know, my son wakes up with me in the morning. We're one-on-one all morning.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the family gets up. I take my baby then, my 6-month-old, and it's me changing him. He doesn't like me very long because I'm useless to him right now. But
right.
We get our one-on-one.
You don't have the teat.
My son goes to bed at 7:30. My daughter has me until 9:30. You know, so they all get their big window of dad. But then I've chosen that I want to take them on a trip all together once a quarter, even if it's just like to another town on a playground and to, you know, have fun. And then, but I also once a week I want to take them each to do something, you know, go skating or sliding or just me and that child.
Yeah.
You know? And so I agree with you 100% because the relationship is huge. My wife and I, we put our time in too. My business is so well taken care of in that regard. Like my team are incredible. They love me. I love them. They are where I have probably my most positive and most progressive and best moments because they're not my family. That's one thing I'll say, right? And answer me honestly, Dave. If you walked up to your wife and kids and you sat them down, you're like, guys, I need to talk to you. And you were pumped, man.
Yeah.
And you were like, this morning, I made you all bacon and eggs. And then you guys went off and did your thing. And I crunched out like 150 push-ups. And then I did 150 squats. And then I did 150 crunches. And then I ran. And when I was done running, I planked for like 5 minutes. It was awesome. Anyway, then I sat down and I had a fucking epiphany. And I saw the solutions to every problem I've ever had. I might as well have seen God. When I got up, I took a walk. I found inner peace. It was beautiful. Then I come home. I made you guys lunch. Wraps. I feel so accomplished today. They're going to go, good job, Dad, and walk the fuck away.
Bro, I'm laughing because that does sound like me. Like you guys, you wouldn't believe what I did. I had this. You wouldn't believe how many times I've gone to my wife and like, Jenny, I've had this epiphany. I did this and I saw this and it was, oh my God, you know. Oh man,
they don't give a shit, right?
They don't.
And so
they care up to a point, but yeah, you're right. They don't.
but it's never the point. You need them to care.
They're like,
And
cool,
so
man. Cool.
at work, my professional accomplishments are at least taken into account when they're like, yeah, good job with the sale, dude. We all get to eat. And I'm like,
Yeah, man.
yay. Right.
Yeah.
I need that next level. I need the guys who are going to be like, fuck yeah, crush your workout. Like
Yeah, man.
I need that next level of excitement because I'm
Absolutely.
realizing that like it can't be my family's job to do all that.
Yeah.
A lot of the times family can until they're older and mature and doing it themselves, and the investment finally pays off when you see if you've raised good people or not.
Yeah.
That's when it starts giving back to you. But until then, a lot of the times it can feel like you're giving into a vacuum.
Yes.
And it just sucks and sucks and sucks because they can't give back to you because it's not their job to fucking give back to you, right?
Yeah.
It's their job to take what you have to give them
Yeah.
and build with that. But
Yes.
that can leave a lot of ache and a lot of resentment and a lot of just miscommunicated or uncommunicated feelings because these are not the people who need to hear it. These
Yeah.
are not the people who should hear it. Man, if I'm scared I'm going to lose the house, I am not going to let my wife be the first person I talk about that with.
Yeah, I made that mistake too once.
I'm gonna go talk to someone who has lost their house.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna go to talk to someone who got their house back or went through the like I'm gonna talk to people who've been in the process, been in the heat, and then I'm gonna be like, how do I break it to my wife? And another man is gonna tell me how he did it and where he screwed up and where it went bad. And then I'm gonna take that advice and I'm gonna try to run version 2.0 and do a better job.
Yeah.
And so I need those men around me. I need the men who are like,
Absolutely.
man, we've been there. It sucks. You're not screwing up. Well, I mean, you have screwed up to this point, but the choices you make now can make sure you're not a screw up in 6 months from now.
Absolutely.
And so that's the kind of I need people who understand. Here's where I am. I'm living in the residual of who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I need to figure out who I want to be. And I need to be around a group of guys who are going to hold me accountable and understand that we need to celebrate the growth. Because if we don't celebrate the growth, the upward spiral is going to stop at some point, and it's not going to be anywhere near my potential realized. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there is work involved, right? Like let's take the example of like losing the house, and you can get there sometimes because of certain mindsets, and mindsets will stop you from taking certain actions. And there's always data, right? That's the thing. There's always data that can like guide us into like, okay, well, talk to me about your numbers and your sales. And it's like, we can see like, what do the operations look like? And you can like look at these things and be like, okay, well, that was your problem. But what's underneath all that? A man doesn't just lose his house. He experiences over the course of years, weeks, months, a series of time, little moments of shame. And he won't reach out and he won't sell and he won't find that easy, like maybe it's like the clarity in his marketing, or he won't optimize his product, and he'll slowly but surely not tell anyone.
In my experience, I find men tend to ostrich. They'll put their head in the sand and they'll just kind of hope the problem goes away. And I've been guilty of it.
Absolutely. And that's the lone wolf mentality. And that's going to kill you. I'll just tell you that right now. If you're a man and you're listening to this and you think you can get through it, you can figure it out. I love those words. I'm going to figure it out. Or you've told yourself, I'm fine. You're not. I'm just going to tell you that. Like, you're not fine. You need to just absolutely just show up and be like, listen, I'm going through this. And you can figure out what's the data telling us. And then we can work on the emotional element of that. That's the biggest part of this whole thing, right? There is the warrior element, which is the doing. That's like the action and the accountability and the discipline. And like, we do want that. There is energy behind that, but there's also this poet within us, this part of us that feels these emotions and says, well, I like something's stopping me, these mindset blocks. And so we can dive into that too. And so there's this element between absolute action and like, it's like this nuance, right? Where I've been in groups like that before too, where it was like, all right, what are you working on? Go do hard things and, wake up earlier and throw salt in your wound and, until it cauterizes itself. And you're like, no, but the wound still hurts, and then there's the other side of that. And I've been a part of those groups where it was like super soft. And like, tell me, brothers, how are you feeling today? And I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't be here either. Like, this is like, and I played the game and I went into the feeling and I'm like, dude, I feel great, man. Like, this is great. Like, but I also want to be successful. Like, well, can I find a group that's sort of between the two worlds? And I was like,
No, so you started one.
I started one. Exactly. I started one, man. That's exactly it. So I was like, I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed that nuance between the sort of the science of success and the art of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's truly an art. It's an art because it's what really sparks your soul is different than sparks mine.
I'm
And we
learning
can
that fulfillment is the romantic part of
it
what we
is.
do.
It is. It's the romance, man.
Fulfillment is the heart of what we do, and the success orientation is the brain of what we do, the mind of what we
Absolutely.
do.
And success is easy, right? It leaves clues. Follow a mentor
Yeah.
and do what that person did, and you'll be successful,
Yeah.
period. Right. Like even you've given me strategies on how to be successful as we're building our podcast. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. And it's like, okay, great. Well, if I was in a place where I was like, well, what do people think about me if if I say these things, and like you can kind of see that there's like an art to it. If I'm
Yeah.
in full expression of myself and I'm like, yes, see me, I don't give a fuck what people think. Like
Mhm.
then people are like, oh, dude, this guy's got something. There's an art
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
And so no matter how much success protocol you throw at me, if I'm not willing to open my heart and express myself on a podcast, no one's going to follow it. No one's going to want to listen because they're going to hear that shit and they're going to be like, I'm tuned off because I don't resonate with this guy. Like they want
Yeah.
to know like, okay, what's he got going on? And so yeah, man, like the Unbreakable Man is designed for that. It's because those are the two elements playing in life. Like we want success, we want the things. Like, dude, you want that Chrysler, right? Like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, let's go. Like
Got it.
LFG, man.
Now I
Like
need
I'm
a
a
7-seater SUV, so I've got to
yeah,
do this again.
yes, man. Like, let's go. 7-seater SUV, put it up. Like
Yeah.
that's the ticket, man. Like that's where we're going.
Yeah.
Now, there's always again, there's the element of going after your dream. And Seth Rogen,
Yeah.
not Seth Rogen, that's the actor Seth Godin, wrote a good book called The Dip. And he talks about when you go out in the hero's journey, and I teach this, you're going to experience a dip. And that dip is like this downward like moment where you're actually going to have to shed your old mindsets and you're going to experience the resistance. You're going to hit that wall, but that wall is actually not a wall. It's just you stopping you. It's a mindset and a thought, feeling, and action that is old and implanted deep into that subconscious mind. And if you want to truly break through, you got to be willing to step through the unknown,
Yeah.
right? That's going to be the discomfort, that fear, and you keep going. And it's in that moment that you'll have the breakthrough. And that's what we do.
Beautiful. And what I love is you're not having that breakthrough and your family's not at the mercy of you accepting those old habits. They're not in the throat,
Yeah.
like they're not watching, like, you know what I mean? It's a container that is separate from your business and your professional life and your coworkers. It's a container that's separate from your family. For all intents and purposes, it's a group of guys you're just meeting for the first time and they know you who you are right now and what you want to
Absolutely.
accomplish and where you've
Yeah.
been. And they're, in my opinion, probably a safer group because when you're done, you can walk away from it and these guys are going to forget you. They
Yeah.
might stay lifelong friends, but they're not going to remember your problems and gossip and hold it against you quite the way coworkers might or family might or people
Right.
you don't want to open yourself up to, right? So
Yeah.
that for me is kind of another attractive piece is that I can go off and have these vulnerable expressions of self away from the people who count on me to be the strongest motherfucker alive.
Yeah.
And so that is value in and of itself too, is that these guys are not
huge.
only going to be able to provide insight, but they're not going to remember the time that I was scary, vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not going to humanize me beyond repair in some ways with the people that I love, which is weird to think about, but it's a true thing we need to worry about.
It really is. And that's the thing, man. Like there's a code amongst men, and this is actually part of our program too, that what you see here, what you say here stays here when you leave here. And that is just honor amongst men, that you can share vulnerably whatever is on your heart, no matter how dark and shameful it is. And because if you are holding on to anything, if there's deep, dark secrets in there, that's just going to keep eating at you, and you're not going to be able to be that fullest expression of self.
Yeah.
We give you the safe space to do that. And generally for that, those moments, it's, like being in the actual physical environment. So we have obviously the online container, and then there's that in-person event. And it's actually at the in-person event that you are going to create depth and connection with these guys. still getting text messages, like, guys showing me pictures of them on their own Zoom calls with, the guys. It's like this deep brotherhood, because when you open yourself up and another man sees you and just hold space. That's one of the monikers we use. Holding space is you are empathetic witness for his wound, and you're not judging it. He can heal because he's now psychologically able to link up. I'm not shameful. I'm not bad for having done this or being this way. I'm who am, and then it's like, I can step through, and like, who am I? And then they could discover exactly who they are at the depths of their soul, man. It's like guys leave that program and they're like, I know who I am. Like, I know who I am. And it's really cool to see every time, man. I get to facilitate it, and it's really special, but it's really
Yeah.
it's incredible, man.
So I'm running up on time, but before I let you go, if it's okay, I have one more kind of question for you.
Yeah,
It's like
man.
I've
Yeah.
done a little bit more work internally. I'm aware of identity and its existence. I've shed a lot of shames, and I'm at a place where I'm okay with a lot of things. And I know a lot of the guys I meet personally are not there. So, you must have a lot of fundamental stuff that you run into where guys are very early on. They're
Yeah.
just kind of coming to terms with a lot of this stuff. And
Yeah.
they're looking maybe to get to the state where I am, or even, transcend beyond that to the state that you are, or transcend beyond you to the state that I don't know who is more calm than you, but I'm sure
Mhm.
someone exists. Who are the kind of guys, like if I join the Brotherhood today, who are the kind of guys I'm going to be in
Mm.
company with? I'm walking
Yeah.
I'm walking in with my own perception of who I am, but who am I walking in there and who am I going to be in company with? Who are these guys? What are they working on right now? What are they doing? What kind of stuff are they accomplishing that I can get in there, celebrate with them, but also go, I want that too.
Yeah, the type of man you're going to encounter in the brotherhood is going to be the kind of guy that is on the path of being the best version of himself. He's open-minded, he's willing to see himself, and he's courageous enough to go within and shed whatever he's holding on to. Obviously, you mentioned, like, yeah, we got guys that are just starting out on their path. I've even worked with guys that have gone through the, high level mindset programs and in other coaching programs. They've done it, and they've actually, like, in fact, literally, one guy came through my program and he's like, dude, I was doing, like, I don't want to even say it, but he was doing this other program for 20 years, and he's like, in 3 days this was the most impactful experience of my life. And I was like, yeah, man, like, I
Okay.
kind of, like, I know, like humble brag, but like, like, you can be a super advanced dude, or
Yeah.
you can be a complete newbie
Yeah.
when it comes to personal development, and you're still absolutely going to get something out of it. Again, there is a nuance between, going after the science of success and having that, and having, like, the tangible, like, let's go do this, let's do these KPIs and all these things. And then there's, like, that the art of fulfillment, and finding, hey, what sparks your soul on fire, and what is that thing, like, is there something that blocks you? And so ultimately, the guy that this is not right for, like, this is not right for the guy that's still closed-minded, that's not willing to open himself up to be seen, because he's still like, no, I'm gonna judge other guys, and he knows it. Like, he knows, like, who he is. In fact, I did have
Yeah.
one guy, I will say, I did have one guy like that, and it didn't work out. And we just had to part ways. I was like, listen, man, like, you're either gonna open up or this isn't gonna work. And so sure enough, like, it didn't work. And I want to
Yeah.
make note of that. And so I do have a vetting process now because of that.
Yeah.
You have to apply to be a part of this. Like, we need to jump on a call, and I need to actually have a conversation with you, or one of my teammates needs to have a conversation with you to make sure that you're the right fit for this program, because we want to make sure that we don't get any ho-hum dude off the street that's going to be closed-minded. Because, like, when you're coming in, like, you're like, dude, I'm trusting you, man. Like, who
Mhm.
are the other guys? Like, I want to know that our container is safe. I like to use the word sacred, because it's a safe space, man. It's like, hey, like, if you're working through some shit, man, like, you got to be willing and open to express that. Because
Yeah.
if you don't feel safe because somebody else in that group is not safe, dude, it is like a bad seed, like, it will fester and manifest itself. And so we do have a vetting process, and again, you
Cool.
have to apply. And yeah, there's a bit of process into it.
Cool. Because like I played some team sports, and it kind of what you just said reminds me of the first day stepping on the ice with a new team, and you're like, who are these guys? Who's the coach?
Yeah.
What are they? Are they going to be good for me? Is the coach a hard ass? Is he going to be, are these guys really good at their positions, or am I going to have to like kind of sit here and use my IQ to fill in blank? Like you don't know, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
so I think that it's good to know that who you're stepping in with, but also what are they accomplishing? Are they having deeper connections with family and their kids? Are
Yeah.
they pursuing, job success? Like, are you seeing a lot of that in here where guys are like, well, I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair, I've seen your social media, I've seen your texts, I've heard your testimonial, so I know what's
Yeah.
happening. But for the
Yeah.
listener, for the person listening in who has no context or idea of who you are, like, I just want to say that because of Dave's program, like a guy learned how to run a truck of his employers and can run the truck by himself without any aid or assistance.
Yeah.
A guy came home who had a really hard time with his in-law, his mother-in-law, and he was
Yeah.
able to sit down and talk to his wife in a way that like things actually changed, and that relationship, he's able to like giggle and laugh and joke around about
Yeah.
it now instead of
Yeah.
get triggered by it.
Yeah.
Like I've just heard things where like guys are actually coming away from this going like, holy fuck, Dave made my life better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just it. It's like the sentence I like to say, it's like you will be the man you want to be and live the life you want to live. And that doesn't just mean in your business, and it doesn't just mean in your relationships or in your health. It's the whole thing, man, because like there's no one area that we just want. We want the whole thing. Like, can I be
Yeah.
a have it all man? And the answer is absolutely. You're going to have to manage those accounts just like you would anything else.
Yeah.
But you got to draw a line in this. Again, we just like guide you through the process. Draw a line in the sand. What is success in this area? Well, you got to know where you're at in order to know where you want to go. And so there's like this formula. It's very simple,
Yeah.
man. But the thing is, and you mentioned it, is like we've had guys that I'll give an example. One guy wanted to be an actor, and he was in counselor. Like he was a counselor, and he just like was not getting any callbacks. He was just his auditions sucked, and he went through the program. He went through kind of the whole thing, and he literally texted me like as he's leaving our event, he's like, "I got a call back. Holy shit, I got a call back." And I'm like, "Awesome, man! I got it." He's like,
Nice.
"Let's go." And then he texted me like all caps, like, "I got the part." This is like 2 weeks after he had the call back. He got the part that he wanted in this play, and he wants to then he's literally moving to LA from the East Coast of the United States
Wow.
to LA so that he can pursue acting, because he's like, I identify as an actor now. He was able to shed all the bullshit stories he was telling himself, and now he's getting paid to do what he loves to do. And I love that, because it's like when you get paid to do what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that is really what we help guys do.
Now I'm gonna draw attention to one thing you said there that's super important for me in this, as the person looking into the brotherhood, is
Yeah.
he had someone he could text.
Yeah. Yeah. And celebrate that.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that for me as a man is what's missing, is I don't have that Dave that I could be like, holy shit, dude, I just landed that huge contract I was afraid of, or holy shit, dude, I
Yeah.
just had like the coolest, like I just took my daughter figure skating for the first time and it was the
Yeah.
most heartfelt moment I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like I don't have that person, right? And so to
Yeah.
me, I feel like that right there is the power in what you do. The guy's getting the part, he's getting the result. That's the power for you, is
Yeah.
you're like, holy shit, these guys are doing it. They're
Dude,
bringing it.
I
But the
love,
power for the
yeah.
power for them is having you in their corner.
100%. And I actually will I want to touch on that even one more time, because that point is so vital. Like if you did $1 million in sales and that was a huge goal for you, and you were like you put that out in onto Facebook, like what kind of bullshit would come back at you, right?
I
You're like,
don't, I don't,
we
I don't talk about any of my successes on
right.
Facebook for that
Right.
reason.
It's like, oh, we did 1 million in sales. Let's fucking go. And then people are like, oh, you greedy motherfucker, like,
My
and like,
inbox would be filled with family looking for money on it.
yeah, absolutely, man. They're like, hey, where you at, bro? Where you at? It's like, that's the thing, man. Like when you can celebrate your wins. I had a guy literally text me similar. So he owns his own company. In quarter 4 of last year, he had one of the absolute worst quarters of his entire business career. And he was like, dude, I don't know which way is up. All this stuff.
I
So he
know
goes
that
through,
feeling.
yeah,
I know
man. He
that
goes through
feeling.
he goes through the program, and he just texted me like this is like early. I think it was like mid January. Like we're still kind of in January of 23 right now. And he's like, dude, we did we did 3.4 million in sales already this year. And I was like, let's fucking go. Like,
That's
yeah,
it. That's
dude.
it.
And
Like a
so like
bullhorn.
that, dude, he was so pumped. He was so elated. For him, that's a huge step because he wasn't over the 1 million mark in total sales.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, within the first quarter, he's like, dude, I can't even describe it. After the program, that like because he went through the fundamentals, and then he went through the in-person event, and boom, changed his entire outlook, and he knows exactly what he needs to do. And what's interesting about all this is I'm not going to teach you how to be in the best relationship. I'm not going to teach you how to run a multi-million dollar company. I'm going to teach you how to run you. And when you know how to run you, you're going to get exactly what you want. And that's
Absolutely.
the beauty, man. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's good, man. That sounds like everything I need, honestly.
Yeah, man.
So I'm glad we had this talk.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, man. That's awesome.
I love it, man. Well, thank you for making the time for me to get on here and just ask everything that I wanted to know. Because, like I said, I'm one of those guys where I'll sit on the fence. I invest heavy in myself. I don't mind dropping like 5, 10, 15 grand on the right programs, but I need to make sure they're the right programs. And so the fact that you're like, let's get on the podcast and put your fears to rest.
Yeah, man.
It's a pretty big step. Let's publicly dissect my program.
I love it, man. Yeah, like I'm honored that we jumped on, and happy to share. And a lot of guys are like, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear involved, but then at the end of the day, it is that fear that is your compass. I always say that if you feel fear, that's the direction you need to go.
Are you going to sink a couple grand into bad habits and booze, or are you going to sink a couple grand into actually saving your own life and the lives around you, man?
Absolutely.
Like, everyone says they want to do the noble thing. Well, sometimes investing in yourself and learning how to manage yourself is the noble thing.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to command your life like a king, you need to invest in yourself like a king. And that's it, man.
I love it, man. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you found this episode valuable, then go ahead and leave a 5-star review explaining how this podcast has helped you so more people can find it. If you want to be a part of the Brotherhood, then click the link in the description below. You can also check out the Unbreakable Man Experience if you're ready to face a deeper challenge and change your life for the better in just 3 days. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate you. And as always, stay unbreakable.